What was the biggest difference you saw in her now versus her freshman season?
Well, she shoots the three off the dribble really well. Like, I feel like, she was, and when we played her, it was COVID, and I felt like she was a little bit more pass first at that time. The first time we played her, I felt like she ran away is too strong of a term, but she wasn't looking to score as much. And I know that if I recall that year, they had some injuries, and that's when they went to the Final Four. She had to become more of a scorer as that year went on, and I think it obviously has served her well now because she's so efficient. I mean, she doesn't have the ball in her hands as much as Caitlin Clark, but like you look at her efficiency and her ability to make all the shots. I mean, she's really good going left, shooting it laterally with the three, and then she's really good right, mid-range into the rim. So which is really kind of like what Caitlin Clark is, ironically enough. But and she's long enough to jump over you and score. That's the other piece, and she's such a good passer. She's in an action with Edwards, and she's able to keep it long enough to assess whether you stayed too long or not long enough. And if you didn't stay long enough, she's going to go get her shot, and if you stay too long, the post is open. So she's really good. They spread you out that way. I mean, it helps that Shade and Arnold shoot it as well as they do. Nika's a little bit lower volume three-point shooter. But they spread you out enough that when you put two really good players in that middle of the floor action, you got to pick one or the other to give up. And they were really good in the first half. I mean, they kind of backed off. We were bad in the second half, but they kind of backed off. But yeah, she's tough because I feel like she plays the game at the right pace too. I think that's something that you see on film, but seeing her live is, I think, it's even more striking.
How much of UConn's big run at the end of the first quarter, early into the second, was because of Mal's 2 quick fouls?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think Mal. I look back to Green Bay, and she got in foul trouble, and that was not a good game for us. It does limit us a little, but at the end of the day, it's hard to say that was that big of a factor. I mean, I don't know. She's got to be a little bit more disciplined because it does take away some flexibility. I mean, we struggle to score it maybe slightly more when she's on the floor, but we're also better defensively. So it did take away some of our flexibility, but I'm not sure it was much of a factor.
There was a moment there in the second quarter where they couldn't. I think it was maybe during that run where they couldn't miss. And you guys had a little bit of momentum, and then Lauren had the one in the corner, and it bounced twice, rolled to the floor, and you just kind of stood there. But did it feel like one of those nights where shots just would not fall, no matter what look you got?
By the end, I felt that way a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily say within the body of the game. I mean, I felt like for the first quarter and a half, we were. Maybe not quite a quarter and a half, but like we were within striking distance. And to your point, I felt like we were getting good shots. I mean, we only had 6 turnovers at half, but 5 of them were steals, so you get a little bit of run out. But I felt like, we are a low turnover team, and I felt like we maybe played better than the score of the first half. The second half, I don't think we. But we also subbed pretty liberally and had some different lineups on the floor that we would normally not have. It's just because of the nature of the game. But yeah, I think we're going to say, well, we didn't get terrible looks. I mean, you do have to shoot it better than 14 out of 56 to be anywhere in the game against them.
Does this feel kind of going through it in your mind, third quarter, whether to keep that first unit in and keep punching at a possible miracle comeback, or put it in the reserves and let them get some game reps? How did you make that decision, and what did you think of what you ultimately saw when you put the other players in?
Well, I thought they gave us the initial boost, I felt like, and then as the game speeds up, and they have to extend their run of play. Then you see, some of now we're playing behind the play a lot because you got younger players out there. But yeah, I felt like the game was over, and I was frustrated because our veterans weren't talking at the level that they need to. We gave up a wide open 3 on the first play of the second half on a screen that we said was a switch, and I said, 2 I referenced it in the locker room after the game. I said, you got 2 fourth-year players. We had 2 fourth-year players involved in an easy screen switch, and we gave up a wide open 3. So, and my God, our out of bounds execution was awful. That's why I burned it. A timeout 23 seconds into the fourth quarter because we ran the same dang thing. Sorry, I'm not going to get. But we ran it right at the end of the third quarter, and I said, look, this is who's setting the screen. I don't want to see it happen again. And what do you think happened 23 seconds into the third quarter? Because the first one, Paige got the pick 6, or the foul, Morgan fouled her, and then the second one we turned over because we're not in the right spot. So, and it wasn't just, it was younger players, but it was older group too. And so some of it is messaging. Some of it's like, hey, if you're not going to communicate, then in a situation like this, we are going to play. Because we got, at that point, we're going to win the game. We got to get ready for the rest of the year. And I felt like, I thought our younger kids did fine.
Coach, you spoke about, learning from this game as well. But then there's the other component that you need to flush it, right? And
yeah.
How do you get your team to do that, and what kind of challenges that present to you to do that for your team?
Yeah, I think we're mature enough to do that, and I feel like that's the good thing about having older players is I feel like, you see Lauren here at the mic, and she's really reflective and composed, and I think she'll think about it tonight, and so will Emma, so will Morgan, so will Molly, and they'll have us ready to go tomorrow. But, you're in the moment, like after that game, you're like, but I said, look, some of this stuff was popping up. It's just we hadn't played anybody this good. I said, we gave up 31 points in a quarter to Drake. And the number of miscommunications that we had in that quarter were, and poor positioning and all that thing, and I said, but we outscored them, so I just said, I gotta be careful how I say this, but, today's athlete doesn't like to be criticized too much. So when you're winning, it's hard to be, it's hard to go at them for giving up 31 points in a quarter against Drake. But, now when you see what happens when you don't talk on defense, and Chevy did a good job in the locker room of saying that, she just said, look, hopefully this allows you to be coached a little bit harder. And I love our kids. They're awesome kids, but I just think you get a little, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's sometimes when you're winning, they're like, well, what are you talking about? We're winning. So tonight, they'll be a little bit more reflective about the need to be coached a little bit harder sometimes. And I can do that.
Just from your perspective as a coach that goes against UConn twice, 3 times a year, what's it been like just to see all the stuff they've gone through, all the injuries, and see what they've done through all that?
Yeah. I mean, it goes to their culture, the stability of Gino and Chris, and that somebody asked me yesterday, what I've taken from him, and I think he's, and I think that they're really good about just what I'm talking about, really kind of having the ear of those kids. And I said, Paige got taken out 2 minutes into the Marquette game because he was mad at her. And I mean, here's probably a first-team All-American, and he's not afraid to take her out 2 minutes in the game. And it goes to what the Greg Popovich, Tim Duncan thing, where Duncan let Popovich coach him, and I think Gino's really good at having his best, coaching his best players hard enough that now his ninth best player It was like, well, if he's coaching her that hard and I'm not nearly that good. So I think there's a lot of that. And so I think, and they got good players, but they get it, they play hard and they make you uncomfortable.
Got time for one more question.
Same question I asked Lauren, how concerned are you about the shooting? I mean, if you take out that UNI game, the shooting number's been down all year and then 3 straight rough ones.
Yeah, I mean, probably a little more than Lauren, because I think then our kids do put the time in, but then you got to, as a coach, you got to look at, well, we got to get a little better shots. We can't, because to her point, you can't just say, well, UConn shot the ball better. Well, they got better shots and more in rhythm, and they connected passes better, and they put us in scramble situations better, and so a little, but not. I'm not on high alert.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, you guys.